Thank you for joining. So, closing out part 5, and this was just an interesting time. This subchapter in the last chapter of part 5 is called Master's Degree in Brazilian Education. And there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The beloved company that I work for was bought by private equity, and I was going through that whole private equity acquisition, which I get it. If you are vested or if you have equity and you're part of the private equity machine, hopefully you do well. And there's a potential for a lot of people to do well. But I just knew that it eroded the one euphoric experience in the Canadian nice company that I worked for was over. Corporate vultures, new leadership, the financial re-engineering. It was just different. Even to the point, the company that I used to work for, when it was privately owned, the HR department was called Employee Experience. And that's nice, right? Employee Experience. Right away, private equity came in and was like, you know what? Nope, it's back to HR. It's HR. And I knew they came in right when they bought it, they already had an exit strategy. They came in, they bought it. They're like, 5 years, we're out of here. So things are going to change. Things are going to change abruptly. And I just knew as I was going through those changes, the director of sales, it was going to be hardest on our department. And here's really what happened. So in most companies, at the end of the year, there's a bonus. You hit the metrics that you intended to hit, sales targets, you get a bonus. Now it was just so many layers. First, company had to hit their target. The channel had to hit their target. And then your team had to hit the target and the individual had to hit the target. So that alone was very difficult. Then there was MBOs enlisted, managed by objective. And they started tying things to, okay, your forecast has to be 25% plus or minus in accuracy. There has to be a certain amount of inventory that you hold. And it just really got to be complex. And I remember there was one time I was on an executive call. I was on with the CEO and everybody else, the president, and the CEO was basically mocking the lack of technology that we were using. And he went further into detail and said that working with advanced CRM system and forecasting tools, that there was no way that the company, even if we had those tools and invested in those tools, there was no way that we were going to beat more than a 30% plus or minus accuracy in forecasting. And I was like, wow, I was like, that's interesting. I was like, okay, we can't beat a 30% plus or minus forecast accuracy, but our MBO is tied to a 25% forecast accuracy. That's harder to attain, the 25% accuracy, than 30% accuracy. He's saying that no way we could even touch 30% with sophisticated software. Starting to feel what's happening here. Now, let me break this down. A lot of people in corporate America, they understand the trade-off. They understand the relationship. You're going to pay me to do, and I will become a paid actor. I'll become a paid actor in your play and do whatever you think is right. And sometimes I won't share whether it's going to help the company or not, my opinion. I'm just going to accept whatever you say for the trade-off, for that deep, deep addiction of direct deposit into your bank statement, that deep addiction, that satisfaction and beginning of conformity. It wasn't sitting with me. I knew the writing was on the wall. I had to get out of there. It just wasn't for me. And what really put me over was, and I talked about destination leadership. I took leadership seriously. I took the people that reported to me, those relationships seriously. And it was time for evaluations. So starting the evaluation process, it was ranking. There was a bunch of attributes. And when I say a bunch of attributes, 5 to 7 pages of full attributes survey questionnaire. The employee would rate themselves first, and then I would take their ratings and then put my rating next to theirs. I think it was a scale from 1 to 4. That basically said, the private equity leadership said, you are not, as a leader, every leader, cannot give higher than a 3. You're not allowed to give higher than a 3. And I was like, well, I don't understand. If we're evaluating an employee and they excel in one of these attributes on the 7 pages, they deserve a 4. Why then would we only give a 3? That was the ceiling. On a 4 scale, the ceiling was 3. Couldn't give higher than a 3. It just felt fraudulent. It felt dirty. I remember speaking up. I started to have like normal, transparent conversations, and they just weren't going well. It was like nobody cared. This is it. Exit strategy, 5 years. This is it. Do you want the direct deposit or not? Like, shut up, get in line. Things have changed. And it was really hard to witness because the company that I loved, that everybody loved, we would go to different towns. Brokers would pick us up from the airport, excited. The OG Mastery is here. Ray's here. Donald's here. Let's get it. Let's get in the car. Let's have lunch. Let's go look at this. Look at stores. Your company's amazing. They do so much for us. Great to have you as a partner. And then everybody stopped liking us. Nobody really liked us anymore. It was like we always had those relationships, but for the most part, we became a company that wasn't easy to do business with. So I had to strategize. Things were getting difficult. Okay, this is a good time. I'm going to go back and get my MBA. I remember I took like a GMAT class at University of Chicago, and I was getting ready to get an MBA. And so got accepted to a college that, again, remember, high school, cumulative GPA, 1.79, smart friends, smart people I knew, friends of friends were going off to good colleges. And so when I got accepted to this college, it was University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, Gies College of Business. I was just blown away because it tied into, my hometown, my home state, University of Illinois. It was just an amazing school. The MBA really offered perfect distraction for me because it kept my mind working and firing those neurotransmitters and just thinking in business theory and understanding concepts and how that related to what I was doing. And it was just a great program. And one of the best programs, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, just check out the book, is being able to go to Brazil. The MBA program had an immersion program that would go to Sao Paulo and then Rio de Janeiro. So again, traveling always put things into perspective for me, potential into perspective for me. Sky's the limit. Anything is possible. You're going to Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Growing up in Chicago, growing up on the Southwest side, I was like, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. And I always said you couldn't get this trip on the open market. We're in Sao Paulo. We're going to multinational companies, seeing the inside, meeting with their leadership, talking about business, doing plant tours. We went to a cosmetics company. It was a natural cosmetics company, and got to see the inner workings of what was going on there. We met with department heads. We met with presidents. And then another company we went to was a paper company, and they made a lot of, they were in the CPG space, and they made a lot of toilet paper and paper pulp and diapers and just a lot of stuff. And so we got to meet with the president of sales and marketing, who ultimately got her MBA from Northwestern, right outside of Chicago, Northwestern University. That experience and meeting all my MBA cohorts and being in that environment of like-minded people that were seriously invested in their careers and seriously invested in continuous improvement. I mean, we had people from, I think we had a geologist from Africa. We had an IT person from India. We had somebody who worked in marketing for Coca-Cola out of Atlanta. We just had a really, really, really great group. Now, the other leg of that trip was Sao Paulo University. So here we are, Sao Paulo University. We're getting a lecture from the head of economics. And it was funny to me. At a certain point in my life, I was like, I'm not smart enough to ever sit in a college or university. It's not me. It's not how I'm built. It's not how I'm wired. So here I was as an MBA student, as a director of sales, sitting in Sao Paulo University getting a lecture on economics. And I think the basis of it, he was going through how to do business in Brazil and the acronym PESTEL, which was political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. He's going through all these bullet points. And I just thought to myself, I had a 1.79 high school GPA. And here I am. Here I am in Brazil learning. And so the next day we went to Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro was a different. We did the same thing where we went into businesses. And again, you couldn't get this experience on the open market. It was only through the MBA program, the university. And so our first stop was a company called Debitas. Debitas was microfinancing, and it was started by somebody who was born and raised in Brazil, spent a lot of time in New York, was bringing microfinance to Brazil. Now, this individual started a company. He came in and he was charismatic, and he talked about momentum, and he talked about having the moxie and the courage to bring something to his home country that was needed, that was essentially going to help people in the context of microfinancing and how that applied to their economy and the need of the consumer. And he just lit up. The second, and I remember the contrast. So here we are, entrepreneur. And then after that leg of the trip was over, we met with the Minister of Finance for Brazil's federal bank, right? And I just think about that. Federal bank, Brazil, Minister of Finance. And this gentleman who was presenting, you could tell he was tenured. He was there. He's been there a long time. You could see the dullness in his eyes. It was like he had like a methodical and calculated journey. It was like what he was saying, he said 1,000 times, it was memorized. No passionate bone in his entire anatomy and soul. It was just, he was just like washed of individuality. And it could have been circumstantial, where it just so happens to be that that entrepreneur is charismatic, and this person who's working in bureaucracy or federal bank or government is just flat. And so here I was, 2 years of graduate school, and given that moment of receiving my MBA, the ceremony was yesterday, it was Mother's Day. And I felt it was just the first time that somebody in my family was giving the family like a degree. And it was a moment of gratitude and showcasing dedication, the intellectual inquisitiveness, the sacrifice, obedience, achieve something bigger than ourselves. And I was just like, is anyone else here fighting back tears? For me, be in that arena on that campus really showed the underdog status. There's no shame or guilt in the title underdog. It's like being knighted in the underworld while training for the outer world. Hints at higher potential and has sweet notes of greatness undiscovered. That's in the book, The Pen of an Underdog. That's the prologue. And so experiencing that, the then and now, it just relayed the fact that anything is possible. Anything is possible. Get motivated, get inspired, be authentic, crash the boards, go after your dreams. For me, I knew this was the beginning. I knew that it was the beginning because I went on a career path. I got on the train and maybe didn't know the destination. I have to do something. Here's my career. I'm going to be in grocery retail, food manufacturing. And I always wanted the badge of honor. I always wanted to get a college degree. And now here I was with the master's degree, an MBA. So it was all coming together. And the story of the underdog was really unfolding here. It was unfolding for me. It was unfolding for my experiences, life, and what was going to happen next. So in gratitude, always in gratitude. That's the end of part 5. And going into part 6, again, this is the book, The Pen of an Underdog. You can see it behind me. Check it out. It's on Amazon. There's a lot of golden nuggets there. Why do I want you to read the book, The Pen of an Underdog? Is because there's something in there that's going to be the catalyst to change in your life. Now, some people are going to balk at that. Some people are going to mock that. It sounds a little motivational speaker-ish. But look, the deal is there's going to come a time where you assess where you're at, right? And I did this assessment. I did this assessment in multiple chapters of the book, and the assessment came back unbiasedly, and I confidently said, I have to move in a different direction. I have to try something else. I have to move from Chicago to Minneapolis. I have to go to my boss and ask for a title change. I have to accept a job that the company's in Canada. Like all these things, all these sacrifices. The Pen of an Underdog by Ray Ives. Let's stay connected. More to come. I'm excited about the journey. I'm excited getting into, after part 6, I'd say part 7 is just really where theory hits reality and potential is within grasp. And those are the lessons that I want to share. And I share that in a very vulnerable way. I share it. It's completely open. It's my life, my experiences, my journey. So stay connected. Stop consuming, start creating. Pen of an Underdog.